Hi, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com. Today we're going to make a blueberry pie. Now, blueberry pie needs both a top and a bottom crust. You can find a recipe for a pie crust dough on the site along with a video that shows you how to make the crust and how to roll out and line a baking pan, your pie pan, with the pastry, which I have done here. Now what we're going to do with the second round of dough is to do the top crust. So what we need to do, this has been chilled until it's firm enough to roll out, and then we need to lightly flour our surface, and then put your pie dough and then just kind of lightly brush it with some flour, and you also want to brush your rolling pin. And then what I'm going to do is roll this out to about a 12-inch circle that's about 30 centimeters. And what we're going to do is we're going to take about a 2.5-inch, about 7-centimeter star, and we're going to make pastry stars. And we're going to, this is going to be used to cover the whole top of the blueberry pie with the stars. Makes a really nice looking pie. So first what we're going to do is roll it out. So try to roll from the center outward and to about it's an eighth of an inch. And move your, as with the bottom crust, you want to move your dough around so it doesn't stick to your counter. And if it sticks to your rolling pin, just lightly brush it with more flour. And you want to kind of just feel it to make sure that it's all the even thickness. If you find when you're starting to roll it, it cracks, then maybe it's a little too cold, just let it sit on your counter for a few minutes to soften up. Likewise, if it really starts falling apart because it's too warm, you could just put it back in the fridge to firm up for a few minutes. So just work it around and kind of feel it. And if you need to, lightly brush the counter with some more flour. That looks good. So what I'm going to do is just put in a little flour, your star, and I'm just going to cut out the stars. And then just have a baking sheet lined with parchment paper or wax paper, and just put the stars on there. We will need about 20 stars to cover the top of this 9-inch pie pan. This makes a really nice presentation. I know it's a little more work, but it's than just putting a solid sheet of pastry on the top of the pie. Now I have, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. It's not quite enough. So I'm just going to gather this up. Ball. And roll it out again. And if you have a little too much flour on the bottom of the stars, you can just take a pastry brush and brush off that extra flour. Okay, that should be more than enough. So what I'm going to do is just cover the pan with some plastic wrap. And then I'm just going to put this in the fridge for about a half an hour just so the stars can firm up, and then we will make the blueberry filling and put it in the oven. So our pastry shell plus our stars have now been chilled. So now what we're going to do is make the blueberry filling. What you need is 4 cups of fresh blueberries, and make sure to pick them over to remove any soft ones, and then wash them and pat them dry. And then what I'm going to do in a small bowl is I'm going to take a half a cup, that's 100 grams of white granulated sugar, and to that I'm going to add 2 tablespoons, about 20 grams of corn starch, or maybe you know it's corn flour. And this, the sugar sweetens the berries, and the cornstarch kind of thickens the juices. And then to that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of lemon zest, which is the outer yellow skin of the lemon, and 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. And this is just to add nice flavor, kind of brings out the flavor of the blueberries. So I'm just going to mix that together. And then what I'm going to do is just add that to the blueberries. So I'll just gently stir all this together. Make sure you get all the blueberries coated. Okay. And now I'm going to take the bottom crust and just empty it all in. And just spread it out as evenly as possible. That's good. And then what I'm going to do is take the pastry stars and just mix 1 large egg yolk with 1 tablespoon of cream. I'm just going to stir that together. And we're going to coat the pastry stars with this. Helps with browning. Want to get in the oven. So I find it easiest just to brush these stars before I put them on top of the pie. So just lightly brush all the stars with the wash. Okay. So then we're going to start at the outside, and we're just going to put the stars all the way around. I like to just take your finger and press it in so the stars press into the outside crust there, and then we just want to slightly overlap them. And just work your way. All the way around. Whoop, that one I didn't brush with. And then just the same. You see, this looks really nice. There we go. And there. Okay. So I'm just going to then take a little sugar, sprinkle over the top, just a little. And then I like to cover this and put it into the fridge to chill while we preheat the oven. So I'm going to put this in, and we need to have the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 200 degrees Celsius. So there we go. So our oven has now preheated to 400 degrees. And I'm just going to remove the plastic wrap and then place the pie on a baking sheet. I like to line it with parchment paper, but you can just put it right on the baking sheet. And this will catch any spillover that could happen. Now we're going to bake it at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And then we're going to reduce the oven temperature to 350 degrees, that's 180 degrees Celsius, for about 35 to 45 minutes or until the pastry is nicely brown. And you can see the juices will start to bubble up, and that's when you know the pie is done. Now, what will happen towards the end of baking is usually this outside crust will get really brown, and we don't want it to burn. So what I do is, if you see it's like a nice brown that you want it, then take it out of the oven, and then you could either use like one of these pastry pie shields and just put it like that, or you could just, if you don't have one of these, you could just use, take some aluminum foil and just put it around the outside edge. So for 20 minutes at 400. So there we have our blueberry pie. As you can see, the pastry has nicely browned and the juices are bubbling. Now we don't want to cut into this right away. I'm going to let it sit for about 3-4 hours, and that'll give time for the juices to thicken, and then I'll cut a slice. So let's cut a slice. So using a sharp knife, you can make the slices as big as you would like. Make sure you cut all the way through bottom crust, and then this is spatula or one of these. Just it up. So as you can see here, letting it sit a few hours has thickened the juices. This is very nice on its own or with softly whipped cream, or my favorite, vanilla ice cream. So there you have it, blueberry pie. So until next time, I'm Stephanie Jaworski of joybaking.com.